Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. It's to introduce you to the cleanup function, including its roles and purpose. My name is Mike Giardini. I'm a communications officer with Environmental Remediation Management at CNL. We'll start the presentation and then we'll open the floor for Q&A and a discussion period. Before that, a few housekeeping details. First, CRL is located on the unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. As an organization, CNL recognizes and appreciates their connection to this place. CNL also recognizes the contributions that First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples have made, both in shaping and strengthening this community in particular, and this province and country as a whole. There is a simultaneous interpretation of this discussion. You can access the session in French and English through the globe icon on the bottom right. Please select the language you'd like to hear and note that there is a slight lag in the translation for French. Today's session is planned for about 1 hour, and we anticipate the presentation will take about 30 minutes with the rest of the time for Q&A. Please use the Q&A icon to submit your questions, and then we will take them up after the presentation. Please note that we will be recording these sessions and posting them on our YouTube channel afterwards. If you're having any issues and would like to chat further outside this technical discussion, please get in touch with us at ermstakeholder@cnl.ca. Our team will be watching the inbox, so we'll try to get you sorted out. Now we'll introduce you to our speaker today, Samantha Scott, Acting Manager of CNL's Cleanup Function. Samantha?
Thank you, Mike. As Mike said, I'm Samantha Scott. I've been with CNL since 2016, and in this role as Acting Manager just recently, but I have been with the cleanup function since 2020. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about the purpose of the cleanup function, some of the underpinning regulations that guide our function and the processes and the procedures there underneath the function, the role of the cleanup function here at CNL and across all of the sites, a high-level view of the supporting programs that make up the function, and how we interact with the waste management function. So I apologize, my co-host is hearing something upstairs. So want to talk a little bit about the management system and the framework for Reg Doc 211, which is the framework for radioactive waste management and decommissioning in Canada. The management system is made up of a number of safety control areas as part of the, as listed in the license condition handbooks. And the decommissioning or the cleanup function is found under Reg Doc 211 under the waste management safety control area. The CNL cleanup function provides all Canadian nuclear laboratory sites and projects with a structured, consistent approach to determining and reaching next land uses and end states. The function provides guidance and training on the approach the function provides guidance and training on the decommissioning and demolition of facilities and buildings, as well as environmental remediation of lands and other environmental media impacted by past, present, and future operations at CNL. The cleanup function consists of the land use program, the decommissioning and demolition program, and the environmental remediation program. The cleanup function provides sites and projects with the processes and procedures that should be followed in order to successfully reduce legacy liabilities and ensure the cleanup of AECL's nuclear sites across Canada is done in a consistent and defensible way. The function ensures that the sites are determining the right next land uses and end states, involving the appropriate level of Indigenous, public, and internal engagement. for cleanup planning, as well as providing necessary, sorry about that. Sorry about that, everybody. So the function ensures that the sites are determining right next land uses and end states involving the appropriate level of Indigenous, public, and internal engagement for cleanup planning, as well as providing consistency in how decommissioning and demolition of facilities and buildings is done, as well as environmental remediation of impacted lands and media. The function is built to align with three particular standards and regulations. The first is the CSA standard N29419, which is the decommissioning of facilities containing nuclear substances. And the second listed there is Reg Doc 211.2, which is decommissioning. CSA N29419 and Reg Doc 211.2 are very similar in their content and were made to go hand in hand. CSA N29419 specifically mentions environmental remediation and end state criterias. The third document there is Reg Doc 331, which is the financial guarantees for decommissioning of nuclear facilities and termination of licensed activities. The cleanup function, as I've mentioned, is part of the management system here at CNL, which ensures that CNL is compliant with the latest regulations. For example, the different functional support areas across the organization, like cleanup, radiation protection, and environmental protection, cover different requirements stated in license condition handbooks for the sites. What we see on the on the screen there is how the three programs of the cleanup function develop management, are part of the management system. They develop the processes and procedures, talk about training, communications, and we also review documentation to ensure that we are meeting compliance expectations. The sites are the ones responsible for delivering and executing those procedures. And we both play a part. So both the delivery and the function both play a part in ensuring that we are meeting the right next land uses and end states. So what are some of the responsibilities of the cleanup function and its programs across the organization? So the cleanup function is responsible for maintaining processes and procedures, and we update them as required to ensure that they're in line with the latest regulations and standards. We also provide communications to ensure that the function processes and procedures are effectively communicated across the sites. We do this via internal CNL posts. We have a cleanup function webpage. We hold monthly meetings with sites points of contact, and we communicate lessons learned across the organization. We provide training to those employees who execute and or provide support to both the decommissioning, environmental, or all of the decommissioning, environmental remediation, and land use programs. We check compliance in documentation across each of the sites against requirements for the processes and procedures. We also review documentation that are key outputs of those processes and procedures for the three different programs. We provide support to project delivery teams, and we also report to our regulator and our client, AACL. So the land use program consists of 9 stages, as we see on the board. The first 6 are really for the whole site, and the last 3 are more site facility or site specific, and they are mostly outlined in our decommissioning and environmental remediation processes. The land use program ensures that we are setting up the next land uses and end states across the whole site. The decommissioning and demolition program consists of 6 stages, and it's really from the, it goes through the decommissioning facility life cycle, from inception to concept of when we are siting buildings, all the way through the execution of decommissioning into project closeout. And we really are going towards the next land uses and end states as outlined in the land use process. The environmental remediation program, similar to the decommissioning program, this consists of 5 stages. The decommissioning and the environmental remediation program can work hand in hand, so they can be done simultaneously at the same time, or they can be done one before the other. The environmental remediation program ensures that we meet the end states as outlined in our detailed decommissioning plans and our remedial action plans. The function was, the cleanup function was built to align with the waste management function. The waste management function consists of, uses the Reg Doc 211-1, which is the waste management, volume 1, management of radioactive waste, and waste management volume 3, safety case for the disposal of radioactive waste. Like the decommissioning function, the waste management function also translates regulatory requirements into policy and procedures that are specific to CNL. They conduct surveillances of all CNL facilities that generate waste, and they also engage stakeholders and provide training on the waste management process. The integrated waste strategy is also an important part and interacts with the cleanup function. The integrated waste strategy helps outline how we deal with waste and ensuring at CNL, and ensuring that we are reducing the amount of waste generated here on site. We do that through the use of our facilities and processes and procedures that are outlined through the waste management function. In summary, the cleanup function enables CNL sites to demonstrate compliance against decommissioning regulations. It maps out a path to achieving end states, both facility-specific and whole site. We provide guidance for whole site planning and facility-specific planning. We roll out communications and training on processes and procedures to ensure consistency across all CNL sites. And we are linked into the waste management processes. That's the conclusion of my presentation today. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Samantha. We will now go to questions, if anybody has any. Just wait a second to see them come in. Okay, so here is one. Just wondering how many communities you were involving in the decommissioning process. I understand you have included Saugeen, but there are many First Nations near these other sites.
Sure. So CNL's committed to building meaningful long-term relationships with Indigenous peoples, local communities, and stakeholders. This goes for all of our sites, including the CRL site. We've been listening closely to people's concerns and questions and incorporating feedback as we move forward.
Okay. Please provide a description of the target end states on slide 4. Was the public involved in determining those end states?
So the target end states are developed using a process here on site. And we look at the, sorry, we look at the, how the land has been used in the past, and how we could potentially use it in the future based on what was how that land was used previously. There are particular I want to say regulations, but there are particular guidelines and on what we can do with land and the if a site's contaminated, how clean is that site? So how can we use that in the future? The public was involved in influencing some of those end states currently for the CRL site. We do that through our community advisory panel, but we really use, we are restricted in how that site is used in the future based on its past uses. So we try to clean up to the best of our ability at those sites, and then that influences how we can use it in the future. Again, the community advisory panel, specifically here at the CRL site, is influencing some of those end states, but we are going out. It's always a continual work in progress, and we do go out and talk about how the site is being used and how it will be used in the future. And that is something that is incorporated into our overview, decommissioning, and cleanup plan.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Just looking at the next questions. Can you please provide a copy of the overview decommissioning plan?
So the overview decommissioning plan, it's the overview decommissioning and cleanup plan. This document is currently being developed for the CRL site. We are in kind of the final stages of putting together a next revision to be sent to our regulator, the CNSC. Once that document has been approved by the CNSC, we will be developing a version for the public, basically an executive summary outlining what is in that document. And we'll be using that overview, decommissioning, and cleanup plan summary there to go out to communities and open houses and really use that as an engagement tool going forward. So currently it's not available to be shared, but as soon as the regulator has approved that document, we will be providing a copy for the public.
Okay, and that answers the other question of please post the 2018 version of the ODP on your website. So
yeah, so we do have an older version. It is very much out to date. So it's not, it is kind of how we drafted the overview, decommissioning, and cleanup plan, but the site has changed so much in the past 5 years. Engagement has been greater. The site changes are different. So it would almost be more beneficial just to wait for the next version to come out rather than post that 2018 version.
Okay, perfect. The next one, what are the terms of consultation and notifications with trappers and their trap lines in the area? I have a trap line of within 100 kilometers of the Pinawa nuclear site. Who's responsible for that? The province of Ontario, Manitoba, or both?
So I'm not familiar with the White Shell site as much. I do believe that it would be both, but what we can do is come up with a more specific a more specific answer, and the White Shell team could address. That being said, Mike, maybe you know more. I do believe that there is an upcoming Whiteshell webinar going forward.
Yeah, so we have Whiteshell WR1/NPD webinar coming up next.
Perfect.
So we'll be able to talk about that with that team, with the Whiteshell team. Okay, I think we have one more. More of a comment, but we can probably talk about it. I know that 100 years is not enough for us to monitoring, but CNL is adamant on 100 years being enough. We would like to see longer times and accountability in promises during these 100 years.
Sounds like it's more of a comment, and we can look into the future to incorporate more on that for future webinars.
Okay, perfect. If there aren't any more, thank you, Samantha, for doing this webinar for us today. But before we wrap up, I just want to remind local residents that CNL's Community Advisory Panel is going on its second year and is accepting applications. For more information, visit cnl.ca/CAP or email the stakeholder relations team at ermstakeholder@cnl.ca. We'll send out the links of this recording once they're posted on YouTube, and feel free to distribute them to anyone that might be interested. And we will also include responses to any questions that we didn't get to if they come in late. And once again, ermstakeholder@cnl.ca is the way to get a hold of us. Thanks for tuning in today. Thanks for attending. And again, thank you, Samantha, for doing this webinar. Okay, so take care. Thank you.